Hi, this is Bob Woodworth, BUHS District 6 Chair. Just to fill you in a little bit about the beginning of our meeting tonight, which started before the camera arrived. We are meeting on our reduced summer schedule. Most of our board work in the summer is done by committees with approval from the entire board. Not necessary. The committees have authority during the summer, but they do report on their activities, which they have just done. And we received reports from the administrators as to the summer activities, brief reports, and that's where the camera came in a little bit just to get an update. Things and administrators chime in by all means. Get an update. We will at finance get an update. You can we switch things around because the session that we thought we were going to have we didn't come about, so we got moving ahead. But it's been all basically committee approved stuff that happens in the summer that the whole board doesn't weigh in on. So if you want to cut her in, okay. Basically everything is moving along. We will get a report at finance on Wednesday. I believe the engineer from Stevens will be there to update us on the bleacher project. You know, if you go out there, it's not obvious that a whole lot's going on. Obviously, the bleachers are being fabricated somewhere, but they did remove got the old piece of foundation out of there, I guess. Yeah. So the ground is ready.
Your sign is big.
Oh. It was big, yeah. It had to get a little bit bigger piece of equipment than our newly approved tractor, right?
Right. Yeah.
To get it out of there. So that's coming along. As we talked about the band's roof, that's in process. A fair amount of floor work has been done in some spots, but there's more of that to be done. And my question was, how do we coordinate that in the lunch area with our summer program going on, which I guess is going to be a little bit of a challenge.
It'll be a little bit of a challenge. They'll be able to get it to the main kitchen for sure.
Yeah.
Our kitchen will delay until later on in the year.
Yeah. And there's a lot of painting going on. The one thing I didn't ask about, maybe somebody could update us on, is the for the Sawyer Field.
He hasn't started that yet because he wanted to make sure the grandstand was ready. So he's going to work on the grandstand more, but that's not forgotten.
Right.
And Dave Zolkowski's done some prep work out there.
Yeah.
That's going to move ahead.
Yeah.
The other thing that was done is that the Colonel's Den has a full Ansel system now, which they've never had before. So it's a fire suppression system, which when they were moving what they had to do prior is when they were frying, they had to move the fryers out and hold an umbrella up because it was raining. So they have to do that anymore, which is nice.
So there was a fire suppression, is that if it went to this,
right. So that was just, so the boosters were very pleased that that's there, and I'm glad it's there as well. So, and the Colonel's Den painting project is on track as well. That'll happen this summer.
Okay. So I think we're halfway through July now, so we've made a lot of progress. But end of August end of August will be on us. Okay. Is there any unfinished business? Okay. Any new business? If not, we can move into planning and goal discussion. I would start off by asking that we think about how we're operating as a board for this next year, any particular areas that need to be worked on. Also for individual committees, what particular things they'd like to do. I have a couple of things in mind that I'd like to see happen. But I think maybe the best way to get the thoughts going best is to have Ron go through the SESU. So that's out here now. District-wide action plan for this one's for 2011 through 2014.
So I hope you don't pass out while I'm
provided the overview. We're gonna pass out.
If it's long enough, we will.
There, you're good. I'm going to keep it as good. So this is a pretty dense document, but I just wanted to highlight kind of the format, and it's an annual thing that we do with the district-wide leadership team. And so I won't get into all the details. I'll probably highlight a couple of things from each section, but as you can see, we start with the mission to provide a safe, inclusive, supportive environment where all students grow academically, socially, and emotionally, and are challenged to reach their potential as local and global community members. In order to fulfill our mission, the following district goals have been established to guide individual school-wide action plans, administrative team goals, and individual professional goals and teacher professional development plans. So we tie these broader goals into individual school action plans and also individual teacher professional development. So there's three basic goals. The first one is related to safe and healthy schools. All students will have access to equal educational opportunities in safe, healthy, and respectful environments. And so there's a number of needs identified by data that we collect. We have targeted goals, and then we have in the middle section action steps, and there's a lot of action steps related to these goals. We identify a person or group that's responsible towards the right-hand column, and then a time frame, which some of these dates will be revised when our leadership team meets the second week of August. So we had reviewed this most recently last December. We've had some ongoing discussions each month when we meet as a leadership team, but we'll do a full review and update in August. Some of the work that we do with the middle school leadership training on social competency is part of this first goal. A lot of the harassment and anti-bullying initiatives and work is part of this first goal. You can see that number one on the needs assessment, 55 substantiated incidents of harassment, and the nature of the harassment being sex or sexual orientation. And so a lot of that will drive the trainings that we initiate and we follow through on related to those types of incidents. Towards number 2 and 3, this really relates to climate survey information and social competency work that I've talked about in the past. And so again, I'm not going to go into all of the action steps, but this is kind of information that you can take, and when you have some time, read through it and kind of see how it relates to the work that you're doing as a board for BUHS 6. If you continue on to the third page, the second goal, student learning. All students will show annual progress in meeting the Vermont standards. So these are kind of the academic goals. One of the things that we've constantly worked on is the achievement gap and closing that gap with students that are either in need because of special needs or poverty, where they don't have necessarily the background when they first come into school. And it's much easier to try to change or close that gap in the earliest years, pre-K, kindergarten, grades 1 and 2. But if that gap is not closed, which in some cases you can't, by the time kids get into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade into high school, there's really, it's tough achievement for some of those students. And that's where we have interventions that are set up to help that. I would direct you to look at the middle part of that column under number 2 through 3D. These are some of the things that we've been highlighting: improving identification and support for struggling students, using data, the data teams, grade level cluster teams, for administrators, principals to work with school staff to look at data on a regular basis. 2B, improve use of data to determine next instructional and intervention strategies, provide coaching to support, to build capacity. Number 3, we look at improving the delivery of math and literacy instruction, and that continues throughout that section. One thing that we've done, I think, quite effectively this past year is with our literacy, math, and data coaches, We've also had Michaela Sims be part of those regular meetings and grade level team meetings, and I think she's really added quite a bit to the work that's being done for social competencies and the math and literacy instruction. As we transition to the Common Core, there's a lot more emphasis on historical texts and informational texts, and Michaela has a really good background in that to share with teachers. So that's been a really good change. I think that's coming forward.
Excuse me, Ron. I'm familiar with the coaching at the elementary level. Is that something that is also happening in the upper grades?
In a limited way, probably more in the middle school level than in high school. But I know the data coach has worked with Ingrid's staff on a regular basis, and literacy probably as well. Math is a new person, so the transition I think has been more focused on the elementary grades than middle school. And you may remember that at one point through the Department of Ed money, the high school and middle school had their own coaches, which is not the case any longer, but so as needed. I don't know, Ingrid, if you want to talk about Bryn's work.
Well, they're all wonderful, first of all, I need to say. And Bryn has a regular presence in our building. Bryn Tucker, who's the district data coach, working with every building in the district. And she has a previous life of working in industry, I think, in data.
Yeah.
Something to do with data.
Prior to her being
Right. So she has been able to transfer those skills to education, has regular meetings with our teachers, teams of teachers, departments, helps analyze the data that we have. We have a lot of data at our disposal, and she's been terrific. Will continue with us next year as well. Brian Bittner, the literacy coach, has had a presence at BAMS as well. Pretty good presence, really, and he's been equally effective in helping us design programs for our Tier 2 instruction, kids who are in the Main Street but need additional support and instruction, and has played a significant role. And Veronica Sampson, the math coach, has actually been at BAMS a little bit this year, 2 times, I believe, but she's really, as Ron said, primarily elementary math, but I've asked her to come and she has found holes in her schedule, and it's been good.
So Ingrid, what kind of data does she use? Does she use like in-house data, statewide data, current data, last year's data, live data that she gets?
all of it.
All of
Yes,
it?
yes.
The
Yes.
UCAP data, progress monitoring, the more of
Ames
the Ames Web 3 times a year, while local, and then the local assessments, classroom assessments.
So is that drilled down to like the class or individual students? Or,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
both?
Both,
Yeah.
yeah. And we should have her come and do a presentation because it's pretty, it's really amazing to see that level of detail. And it's really changed the way teachers are looking at, student achievement and outcomes. Each school is developing data teams where she will help coach them along to do that work individually as a school team. And some schools are further along than others. With the elementary schools, as I said earlier, the focus on kindergarten, first grade, second grade has been the biggest emphasis initially. But Ingrid has her whole professional development is based on data. So yeah, it's good. The other thing I would say about this section is it is really driving our professional development opportunities for teachers. We're actually incorporating coursework for literacy and math and some other subjects, other areas, including the Common Core, as part of our formal professional development. So it's guiding the work that we're doing with teachers, and I think pretty effectively. The 4th page, just wanted to point out number 6, we'll be updating the dropout data. Nancy Johnston from the high school has been really great with our leadership team looking at the 4-year cohort graduation rate And then what she does is she breaks it out by original school, the student's original school, and we review that with principals so they can look at, so 6, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, these students coming through your school, what were the indicators or what were the glimpse or the things that you would have noticed that would lead to further down the road students dropping out. So we're looking at it systemically as opposed to, well, those are the high school kids that are dropping out. These are our kids that again, if you can't work with them early on and make some progress with interventions, we know that down the road they're probably going to drop out. So there's strategies that we're looking at to intervene.
Well, isn't this where your data comes in?
Absolutely, that's what I'm
Like
saying.
your elementary school data, and it follows the kid right along?
Right. Yep.
Just anecdotally, I was talking to the president of Greenfield Community College not too long ago, and he told the group that the prisons make their plans based on second grade reading levels.
Reading levels, yep.
So they figure if by second grade the students are well behind, then they're making a bed for them.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
Can I ask a question, going back to the assessments and the math and literacy stuff? I'm wondering if there's any, we've had conversations at Putney about the bridge between middle school and high school math. And so it just came up now that we've got a strong presence of coaching happening at the elementary level. Middle school has got a gap. And I'm wondering, we've talked about wanting at Putney at least to get a bridge to kind of connect the middle school, to better prepare the middle school kids in coming to BUHS.
Yep.
And I'm just wondering if anything has been done that's changing there.
Page 3, that whole middle section,
Well,
2 through 3.
it doesn't say anything specific about the bridge.
It's the emphasis that Putney in particular, as part of the action plan, is working on that. So it is focusing on middle school.
Okay.
Yep.
And one thing we're doing on counseling is Paul Cohen, our director of counseling, is going out to all the outlying schools now and meeting with the kids, working with the local school counselor to develop the schedules for the students. And then we're bringing them here for a day. So they're getting a chance to see what the high school's like, what it looks
That's
like.
happened, hasn't that happened before?
We haven't had that, we haven't had him, in this case, Paul going out and spending as much time. So he's devoting a full day now to those schools.
My concern is specific to math.
Yeah.
The idea of coming to the high school and having a much larger school and a much
Right.
larger population is one issue, and I know it's a big issue. But my concern is really about
Right.
math. And I know I've been told that the kids from our district do well in high school, by the grace of God, because I think a lot of them do feel like they're getting hit by a train when they first get here, specific to math.
Right.
And so that's. I just wondered if there's any way that we can focus on that little gap there. I know I'm not representing
That's
Putney
what
right
Putney's
now, but
focusing on.
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
I just really want to make sure that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So in August, when Putney goes over the goals, we can do
There you
that.
go.
And then the last thing I wanted to do, because I don't want to take too much time, is on the last page, the third goal, involving leadership, members of the WSASU school community will work to develop school climates that promote positive and respectful behaviors and pride and ownership in our schools. And I really take a lot of pride in this particular goal. I think this is very evident throughout our school system, and it's really a tribute to the people that work in the system, including school board members. So things like ongoing training, number 2, needs for assessment of school board functions. We do our annual VSBA self-assessment, and hopefully board members avail themselves of the VSBA's, the Vermont School Board Association training sessions that are available. We do a lot of parent involvement work in this goal, and then also the climate survey that we want to make sure that parent and student climate is good.
I can make a comment on the parent part of it. I don't know if I meant to forward it to you, but I did in the Times, Brooks had a op-ed, and then there's a story yesterday, I think, about sort of the income gap. And you think of a lot of things that come into that income gap. But what came through was not just sort of the money and the trips and things, but the time that parents have to spend with their kids just supporting, talking about things, taking into extracurricular activities and things like that. And if you go on the website, there's, it's highlighted, I saw it today anyways, but if you go to the article, there's a video, like a 5-minute video, talking to two parents very similarly situated, but one a single mom and one married, and just the differences, and just you really understand what goes on. And so the degree of that the schools, and I know the elementary schools spend a lot of time on this as well, but can support parents and support kids to sort of fill in somehow, and with the meals and the summer programs, and one of the comments in the article was about just taking kids to swim practice or to different sorts of practices and those sorts of things. That a single parent just doesn't often do that, so I don't know, to what degree we step in specifically, but it's really it's important. And then there are a lot of statistics in there that show performance in high school and going on, and college and eventual income and those sorts of things. And then there have been a lot of other studies that talk about the relative class immobility in the United States, where there's a really good chance your kids are going to end up in whatever socioeconomic class that the parents are in, and the degree that we can break that, not to help downward mobility, but to help upward mobility.
So this was David Brooks today?
Brooks was last week. I mean, it may have been like Friday or something like that. I'll try to remember to forward that to you. And then there was an article, I think, in yesterday's Times. But it's one of the little highlighted squares today. Maybe I'll send it to you too, and if you want to distribute it for Canada, it was.
So I just wanted to provide that type of overview as we get into more of the detailed discussions. So I just wanted to
Okay, thank you. So, for our work as a board, anybody can type up in any particular area. Just a couple of things that I've been thinking about is making sure we continue on with the board education. And I would love to have, it looks like we just got one idea. That would be a good one, to have the specialists come to a meeting. I think that's a good one. Are there other ideas that anybody has had? I've said right along, if you have ideas, let me know. But I'd like to. In the past, we've kind of got this started, and then it falls by the wayside a little bit. I'd like to try to keep it going, with a possible exception of during the most intense part of budgeting season. Somehow we get kind of wrapped up in that, and maybe not be able to do it every time. But one out of the 2 meetings a month. Is everybody comfortable with that? And does anybody have a particular area that they'd like to? The other one that I had thought of was perhaps having Nancy Johnston. I don't know how. I don't remember her coming to a meeting for, at least in recent years, to kind of update us on her responsibilities. What exactly is that title? I think
School Improvement Coordinator.
School Improvement Coordinator. Just based on the title, it's kind of vague, but she does have a lot of key responsibilities. So we'll put that one on the list. Anything else that anybody has?
I've got a couple of ideas. One specifically tied to that, and then one related. One is the presentation in terms of sort of the use of technology. We often get the budget proposals about they're doing homework and practicing language. We just did online and those sorts of things, or smart boards or different sorts of things to actually see how they work and what how can improve education, I think, is important, because that's something that's coming in, and I think that hands-on and seeing how it works would be good. And related to that is a twofold. One is maybe having different departments come in and just present something to the board, or the flip side. And I think I've talked to all the principals and you, Woody, about and Ron about this is something that we did at the elementary school level, where we would send a non-quorum group to department faculty meetings. I mean, the structure is different, but we'd send to EES and then to the 3 elementary schools, and we'd just come with no agenda and no nothing, sort of like a listening tour. And it would be completely up to the principals of whether it would just be a regular meeting that we'd sit on, whether it was a presentation, and there were different times where schools were in transition, and so they showed sort of the plans and the excitement and things they were doing, or whatever concerns they had, and it gave us a chance to see what was going on. And so I'm thinking of the different departments. The English department, social studies department, those sorts of things. If this is not something to force onto anybody, but it was something that just a flow of information and to show that we're interested. We were my view is we were all sort of we are on the same side of supporting kids and to move on and just to hear what's going on and to let the departments set the agenda for us just being there. And without a quorum there's no board member could speak on behalf of the board or make any decisions or anything like that, but just to open communications between. And what we did at some early meeting is we set a schedule of what school, elementary schools we'd visit on what dates and just do it. So if that's that may be, and then there would be a report back to the board of what sort of innovations or concerns existed.
So this is, I think, piggybacking on what Russ is bringing up, but a year ago we converted a teaching position to part-time teacher and part-time educational technology integration specialist. And I would love to, I don't know if you want principals to give ideas for
absolutely.
but I would love you to hear what Raphael Adamick has been doing with the teachers in his role as that ed tech integration specialist. It's very enlightening and just super exciting, and it's just exceeded our, I think, dreams of what could happen with that position.
We started a similar position this year at the high school. It's been the first year. And I've met with Karen Razi, who's the person in that position, several times this summer already. She's pretty excited, and I know she would jump at the chance to come and talk to the board and to show you what she's doing with
do both the
teachers.
same night.
Do that as
Of the same
Yeah.
night. Yeah.
Oh, but either way, because we had, when we were running meetings about whether the 6th grade should be in the middle school, one of the meetings was we had teachers from each of the 3 schools come to talk, and they heard things that were going on in their schools they hadn't heard before. So to have people come in from the different departments, or BAMS and the high school, and the degree that the Career Center is doing the same sort of thing, just to hear it. Oh wow, because I remember I think it was the first year when I was on the BAMS committee when that data person came in, and it was just amazing stuff you never would have thought of. It was right after Irene, and he sort of overlapped Google Maps with the list and sort of predicted what kids might be late and what kids might, it was just incredible. Who would have thunk it? And different sorts of things. Then sort of things that maybe Rin also does of how to sort through data, but just like, wow, what a great idea.
So the kids read that and they all knew who was allowed to be late.
Oh, I don't think it was distributed to the kids. Open information. Yeah, I don't. But it was. I think it was for administrative planning. Is what that one was. Yeah, I don't think they were late permissions given up in advance. No, but it was just predictive of what sort of resources and because there's we've taken on transportation, and so what sort of kids might need transportation and what difficulty. So just it's just a novel idea of somebody with data abilities and seeing a problem, go, oh, here's something we can do. And so by having, the BAMs and the high school person at the same time, they could pick up ideas. And that's pretty
Sean?
Well, I think on this same vein, one thing that I found really exciting that happened this past year was the TCC actually went to the houses of the math department and the music department. So we used their involvement with the 1% funds, what they had been doing. We actually went to them and they made a presentation. I'll tell you, I think from my perspective, as a board member, I can't really micromanage or project what a good teacher is going to do, and that was like they showed us, and it was really exciting. So I think that was to actually go to their classroom was a very positive experience for me. And there were 3 fantastic presentations. So.
Are there, there are.
So I am incredibly proud of the work that the BAMS teachers are beginning to do this summer, curriculum mapping. So far 2 departments have completed their work, and this is 1% work that the BAMS committee approved a while ago. And to see the products of that work at the moment from the math and the social studies departments, I think is so enlightening in terms of understanding that big picture. What are we teaching students at BAMS, and how do we know they're learning it? And how is what we're teaching relating to both the Vermont grade equivalents as well as the Common Core standards that we will all be adopting before long. But it's just such good intellectual work that they're doing as departments. These are maps that, like a road map, that will guide their instruction across the department so that all kids who come to BAMS are receiving the same strong, equitable education across the teams. And I would love to have them come and share their maps with you.
Good idea. Dave, anything that you can think of off the top
Well,
of your head?
certainly we can, the role of the Career Center is certainly to provide the career and technical education component to the high school's education. But the other end of it, as folks move to the Common Core, we're finding that more and more Career Center teachers are teaching English and math skills, in a combined basis along with their technical work. So we've been doing a lot of work along that line, and certainly, as we roll into this, I'd love to be able to show how the Career Center is fitting into it.
Embedded in the...
It's hard to do construction work without a lot of math. That's one of the more simple ones it goes into, but there's certainly a lot more.
So,
I'm sorry, if somebody else had their hand, I was making notes.
No. I was actually thinking about the travel opportunities for kids. I don't really know what goes on as a community member. I don't know what is available to the kids at the school. And I think if we kind of, you hear little drips and drabs about the Costa Rica trip, and but I have a sense that there's more.
Well, there is, and normally they come up for approval at a certain period ahead of time. So I think virtually all those trips do come through our
Doesn't it seem to do a
come through
report?
yeah, and they do. We ask them to come and give us a report afterward, and we still have. Well, let's see. I don't know if there's any trips that haven't already reported. I
No,
think
it was last year's Belize and Costa Rica.
because ahead of time we need to approve usually typically a substitute and the insurance.
I think the only one we haven't heard from is Mr. Holliday.
we could go Ireland.
Right, he came before he went, but he hasn't come back yet.
After that, yeah, he came. We approved him to go.
Right.
He's still there. No, I've seen him.
Yeah, it's right, it was right at the end of the year.
He had a flat tire on his bike the other day, so I know he's in
Oh,
town.
I see him on the select board.
She came.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's back.
And we heard about the Belize trip. So that's a very good point, and generally it does happen by way of us being aware of them before they happen.
Yeah.
Many of these are on a 2-year cycle, every other year cycle.
I would just love to be able to see kind of an overview of what happens and understanding that it might be a cyclical thing and it might not be a constant every year, but just to kind of see what a 5-year average has looked like, you know. I don't know.
I'd be interested in something like that as well.
Okay.
I'd be interested to know how many students actually, you know,
We bring back.
yeah.
Well,
You know, how many students actually take advantage or are able to take advantage of these little jaunts?
So Lori, would you also want information about Janeway travel as well, which isn't part of BUHS abroad?
I don't know enough about it to answer yes or no.
I'll include it, it's safe to do that.
And maybe broaden it, not just what are the trips available to the students, but do we have foreign exchange student opportunities for our students? Are those through the school?
Those are done on a person-by-person basis.
Person by person.
Right. They don't have a foreign exchange program. They go through AFS.
It's an outside
Right.
agency that does that.
It's usually AFS or PAX or some students going around. We have a student going to Morocco for a year, but he's doing that totally with his family. So
Boy, you got a lot of ideas.
Oh, you got a lot going on there. We could do one presentation if you wanted on all of the different after-school and summer programs that we offer. And there are staff members who coordinate those programs, and I could ask them to come.
that's been quite a while. We did have, way back, we had a report on the after school, but that's been quite a while, isn't it?
Yeah.
Probably a lot of new folks on
Yeah.
there.
But it's definitely worth hearing about. We have a model after-school program in this state. It's used as a model around the state, especially middle school level. It's such a highly functional program, and I give every bit of credit to the staff who run that program and the kids, who are involved. But it's really exciting stuff going on and very useful.
Well, we have quite a nice list here, so I think starting in the fall, we'll have to have 2 board meetings a week. It'll be every Monday and Wednesday.
And you should just have finance meetings at 7 o'clock in the morning each Wednesday.
That's great, and if there are other ideas, in terms of the logistics and coordinating it, I guess we can kind of rotate along, and we probably would start once we get back in session in September. And
Make a suggestion on that, that we did at the elementary board level, sort of came up with a spreadsheet, but we know when the meetings are the first and third Wednesdays.
Right.
And just, if you want it just for the second Wednesday or whatever, is for, those ideas. So if there's a group, you want to bring in the data coach, you want to bring in the support people, whatever, to just sort of get a reservation.
Let them fight over
Yeah,
it.
and then obviously clear it with Woody, and get that going. And then, and also if the departments want to invite the TCC or whoever to come into a regular scheduled staff meeting.
okay, well, I'll make sure I follow up on that. And generally, we could probably pick, like, just for whatever reason, the second board meeting of the month, because I think it's probably not going to be a little cumbersome to try to do it every board meeting, unless maybe there's a light agenda, but we'll coordinate that. One other thing that is something that I've been thinking about for my own personal lacking is that I realize that I've been on the board now for probably 8 years, and I've never been to a TCC meeting. I think it would be.
Come anytime.
I know, but it's just a matter of you don't think about it, and TCC does their work and does their report and so forth. but I think it'd be really helpful for board members to try to attend one meeting a year or so of the committees that they're not on. Hopefully they'll be at more than one of the meetings of the committees they are on, as they generally are. But
Is there a posting of when the meetings happen on the site?
yeah.
Of even like TCC
Yeah.
and the,
Yeah. So of course the challenging one is for those of you who are not on finance, which meets at 7 a.m. But you know, for once a year, I don't know what others think of that, but I think I've probably been to most every other. I don't know if I've been to a BAM's meeting, but I certainly haven't been to TCC. So I don't even generally know that much about how the flow goes through at a typical meeting. But
I think that sounds like an excellent idea.
yeah, I mean that's my commitment anyway is to.
I think I've been on every committee except BAM's.
Okay, well then you've got a goal. Okay, well that was just 2 cents worth for me, but I'm going to make a personal commitment to try to, and especially since TCC is right before the regular board meeting, I'm going to make sure I get to at least one of those.
And then all the committee meetings are warned on the agendas.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see, you know, with a
Yeah,
little
it's
bit of
right at
notice.
the top of the agenda.
Could we just run through the next couple of meetings so we don't have to wait for the agenda to come out or go looking for it?
You
And
mean in
then
terms of board education or,
In terms
when the
of
next
committee
meetings are?
meetings.
The next meeting will be August 20th. It'll be just about a week prior to the startup of school. We agreed back a ways that we would just need one board meeting in August, and unless anything has changed dramatically. And there is a possibility that there might be a meeting for a executive session, short meeting. We'll try to
7 o'clock?
for the 20th. Yes.
Here,
But there may have to be a special meeting possibly ahead of that. We'll try to give as much notice as possible and get everybody together on a personnel matter. But that's
If I
all.
can, if they do pursue this, what I would try to do is have it on the 20th and start
Oh,
at
okay, we can
6:30.
wait that.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
We'd start that at like 6:30.
Okay.
But
It's
again,
hard.
we'll let you know ahead of time.
And then
Question from you, Rick?
Oh, I'm sorry.
More-
Another idea.
Nope, nope.
We love your idea. We really do.
But that has been most recently the BAM's committee meeting, the second meeting of the month at 6:30. So I was just going to ask Mike if we would.
Well, it's 6.
I was just getting ready to say that for as far as committees go, that on the 20th, based on normal planning, as long as everything's going the way it's supposed to, planning and policy would meet at 6 and BAM's would meet at 6:30 that day.
so maybe if we need executive session, we can still start at 7.
Or we'll have to bump the committee meeting
Bump the committee meetings up a half an hour.
or something. But to go back to the schedule of when things are, that's what that would be that night.
Okay. Well, we'll try to make that all work together.
And TCC.
But looking into early September, the first Monday in September is Labor Day. I will be out of the country that day. I would love to have that meeting reallocated.
I think
Rescheduled.
I think traditionally, we've only had one September meeting
Yeah.
because of Labor Day.
Okay.
I don't think legally we can on Labor Day.
Would that work for the 17th then? I have to be in Montpelier on the 10th. I'm not sure what time I'll be back. Probably
is fine.
So we're just in the 17th, and we'll only do one meeting in September unless there's something comes up and we have to put one in ahead of time. And as far as TCC goes, because normally that would be the first Monday of the month at 6, but I'll touch base with the administrators and figure out if we need to do one and figure out when we can do that best for everybody in TCC.
where does TCC meet?
Usually right in here just before, usually the first Monday of the month from 6 to 7.
Is going to the 17th an issue for startup? Any anything anybody can anticipate being?
I would ask, one thing that the board has done, I guess this is my idea, I'm sorry. One thing that the board has traditionally done on the first day of school, they've been at the school.
Yes.
And I think that is a great tradition.
Both first days.
Yeah, for a freshman first day and the next day.
Yeah.
But it's a really great tradition. Kids go, who is that? And we can tell.
For those of you that don't know what he's talking about, what we do is we split up between the bus door, the BAMS door, and the front door of the high school, and just be there and just welcome everybody to school, just as they come in. If you know the kid, it's easier to welcome them, but otherwise just welcome to school and kind of help direct traffic a little bit.
And they look at you like, huh?
We have,
So that's August,
Yeah.
August 29th.
August 29th and 30th, right? For-
Oh, you just stand there.
Probably 8:30 is a good time.
8:30 till 9:30 or less.
8:30 to 8:45.
Yeah, it's
Because nobody's going to
It's
be
pretty
late.
quick, yeah.
and so on the 29th would be 7th graders and freshmen, is that correct?
Yes.
The
And-
lost ones.
8:30?
oh wait, I'm sorry, is it the 29th
29th and the 30th.
29th.
and the 30th? Yeah.
And the 30th would be everybody would be back that day.
And where would you meet?
You guys generally
I just show up at the front.
show up at the front door, and then you guys decide among yourself who wants to breathe diesel and who wants to not.
And if you have a child in the school, you would probably want to be where that child comes in, so you can embarrass them at a maximum. That's always my plan.
Or you can bribe them, they'll give up their allowance for a month to
Yeah.
keep you away from the entrance they use.
Okay, I have to apologize, but I'm confused. Who starts on the 29th?
7th graders and 9th
7th graders and 9th graders.
Okay.
Yeah,
And the 30th, everyone else.
right. Okay. And then, once we get into October, then we'll be on pretty much a regular schedule, and then.
And it's time for
And it's
budgets.
time for budgets, and there'll be plenty of opportunities to go to meetings, in case anybody doesn't have enough. Okay, in the planning vein, and I was getting past our suggested time, you're getting ready to stand up and leave?
Not yet.
Not quite
We'll
yet.
see
I'd just like to say one thing, I don't want to interrupt, but you probably had goals last year.
Did we
didn't really
David,
ever have
I think they were
session
formal
like that.
Sorry about that.
yeah. Take a check and see if anything get accomplished, right?
Well, I was thinking like maybe every 3 months we should go back to these, and just so we don't forget them.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, particularly this list of ideas for board education and so forth. And see, hey, if anybody had a chance to go to a committee meeting, then
And for everyone who doesn't know, the finance committee meets at 7 a.m. on the first and third Wednesdays.
And we're going to
At
meet.
the central office.
yes, was that directed at me who blew off one meeting?
No, I
Oh,
missed
okay.
No, she missed it
I
too.
missed two.
There's coffee. There's coffee there.
Yeah. No, there isn't. Well, we could make sure.
But
Oh, we could. Jim never told us there was more room in the budget.
You just put the thing in.
It's 50
just-
cents.
Dave's coffee pot, you have to put money in to get it.
You guys are free.
I always give you money for that.
True. All right, I'll tell Jim Wednesday, make sure they know about the coffee machine.
I don't think he minds us half asleep.
Ruth?
I have just one little comment. I don't know where this should come up or if it should come up or if anybody's interested, but it so happens that I'm on the VSBA, Vermont School Boards Association Resolution Committee,
Wow.
and we are meeting, I believe it's the 27th of July, it's the last Friday of this month in Montpelier. I haven't gotten a list of what's coming up or anything else yet, but I do plan to go to that. I don't think I've missed any of them in the years that I've been on that committee. I think they put me on there because I'm the only one that will do it, but
So, and that's where they typically discuss resolutions to put
Yeah,
on the annual meeting.
Yeah, and if, you know, for instance, if this board or any individual on this board had a resolution that they wanted to bring forth at the fall annual school board association meeting, which I confess I have never attended, they're sent to this resolution committee first, and the committee goes through them and either approves them or doesn't approve them, and even if they don't approve them, you can still send them on to the state meeting, but I think it probably is looked on more favorably if at least the committee approves it. And sometimes they'll suggest different wording and send them back and so forth. It's an interesting committee.
Brattleboro Town has had success in getting proposals adopted. One was related to the AYP and No Child Left Behind last year.
I thought of something. Physical education. I would like an education about physical education, please.
Be at the school at 8:30
Yeah.
with
Suit up.
suits on.
Actually, it's 7 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
Even in the summertime, there's an amazing number of, you see faculty and some of the adults here for basketball. It's amazing that kids are coming in for the weight room, the cross-country ski team, 7 o'clock in the morning every Tuesday. They're out here, I don't know what other days. It really amazes me. I never thought that many kids could ever get up that early in the morning, but they do. But we'll add that to the list.
Does the rest of the board have an interest in the physical education requirements? Maybe adding sports to that, the sports opportunities, the physical education
And that
requirements?
brings up something that I wanted to bring up that's not related to board education so much as it's a concern that I have. And maybe I'm the only one that has this concern, and that's fine if I'm the only one, then I can just be quiet. But I'm sort of concerned about our student athletes being well-rounded, because they, and as a former principal in this room said to us one night at a meeting, football is a year-round sport now. So basically, if you want to play, you need to be in the weight room 4 days a week after school every single day, which then precludes you from doing anything else. Because if you want to play, because that's what the coaches have been passing on, and it's not just football; it's all kinds of the sports. That if you're going to play this sport, whatever the sport is, then you have to be participating in off-season physical activity, training, what have you. And I'm concerned about that when that precludes students from being able to participate in other opportunities that I believe would help make them a well-rounded student. Because they can't participate in that because they really want to play that sport, and so they have to go to these off-season training things. Or they can't work, have a part-time job because they have to do these other things. So I'm concerned about that. And I hear it from enough students that perks my concern. I don't know what there is to do about that. Maybe I'm just wrong, but I think it's a concern. Because I don't want us to be graduating kids who aren't well-rounded. Just because they do well academically and they were really good at a sport, those are wonderful things. But if they weren't able to avail themselves of other opportunities because they chose to participate in a sport, that concerns me.
Well, that's definitely a concern. What I see a lot, and I don't hear a lot of that complaint, but I do see that it's some of the kids that seem to be able to manage, just like in every other walk of life, some of those kids can manage pretty well, and some of the ones that are doing all the other things are also doing the sports. But I guess it does become a concern if it eliminates other opportunities and they feel like they have to do that. I know there is some pressure if you want to make varsity in sports. You got to kind of get there way ahead of the season and do work out it. From the perspective of some of the kids, it's good if they don't have a whole lot else, interfering to get them out there and active in a season that they aren't. That's my own personal experience, but I see your side of it too. So it's something that,
I mean, I hear a lot of, what I hear a lot of are coaches who want their students to stay physically active. Like I know one coach in particular asked his players to go out for a second sport.
Well,
Just so
and
they-
I know of students who wanted to go out for a second sport, but because that would having them miss an off-season training sessions because they were participating in another sport, they had to choose not to even participate in that second sport because it was going to mean that they would miss off-season training, which would mean that they could not participate in the next season.
I think that's more self-directed, because I know what Steve's talking about, where the track team picked up a lot of kids from football because it let them do something different, but it would help them stay in shape, and it was really based on their own interests, as opposed to, I know a few kids that decided not to because they just want to be in the weight room the whole time, which really doesn't help them in the long run. So, I mean,
Do we have any restrictions on like athletes as far as grades go? I mean, do they have to
Oh, yeah.
maintain a certain
Yeah.
level?
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 There's an athletic policy.
and it's enforced.
And it's
pretty
enforced,
closely.
and if they don't keep their grades up to a certain level, they're put on academic probation, and then if they violate that probation, they're done for the season. So,
That's good, isn't it?
yeah.
What's school all about?
But there are, a typical challenge, and again, personal experience, is band athletics, wanting to be
That's huge, right?
part of both, and it is really difficult. I can recall at least twice this year where I couldn't make the end of the year party because they had to be a band thing, for a particular sport, and that's a challenge. I don't know how you get around that, keeping kids involved in band, and also just the fact that the music program does take a commitment of a block or half a block for
Plus concerts.
yeah, plus concerts. And it's a great, well-organized program, but it's tough to...
Yeah, and I see it in the musical too. I see a lot of kids who get committed to the musical.
Right.
And that is such an all-encompassing thing.
Right.
That they'll shortchange themselves on other things.
Yeah.
Well, that's, as a parent, you see that, you have to draw those lines all the time.
Right.
And it's a frustrating thing, because if you have a kid who's interested in a lot of different things, you have to cut something out, and it's a tough call, and I think it just gets more intense as they get older and they get more, proficient at their whatever things they're doing.
But it is training for life, I guess. That's sometimes the way life is.
It is, but
Sometimes
you'd
you're in
like
a
your child to be
musical,
a Renaissance
sometimes you're
person
not.
and be able to do everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes you are the musical. Okay, well, that's good discussion. I don't want to keep everybody here too late, but if there's anything else, and just from, hold up about 30
Okay,
seconds.
all right,
I'd just like to say,
I got you.
if people do have idea or concerns about how the meetings go and what's attended to and what isn't, by all means, I know that I have a lot to learn about my particular role. Oh, you're going to tell me right now?
Well, I never see you use your gavel. I
Uh,
don't. It's there.
Does a good job, he doesn't have to.
I carry it. I
Is
do
it just
carry
like-
it with me.
In the case of emergency.
He's been known to carry it around to administrator's office.
He whacks me with it every once in a while.
Every once in a while. I usually do wrap it to start the meeting, but I did not tonight because when I'm not on camera,
All for show.
why show? Yeah, why do it? But I guess we could have a motion to adjourn.
I
Oh,
move
we
we
adjourn.
Oh, do you have a question?
I was going to move to adjourn, but I guess you don't have to raise your hand to do that.
Wow. Yes, we do.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any against or meeting officially
There you
closed at 7:48?
You okay with that, Ingrid?
We can check.